Cody Ko, Dr. Disrespect, that Kris Ava person, Sneeko being so keen to debate the age of consent. You might think, what the hell is with all the kitty whispering among these YouTubers? Except, none of this is new. In fact, inappropriate age relations were extremely normalized until about the last 5 or 10 years. Like, did you know Keira Knightley was 17 years old when she filmed the first Pirates movie? The same movie where her love interest was played by a 25-year-old Orlando Bloom. JFK banged an 18-year-old virgin intern while he was president. House MD had multiple strange episodes, like one where House frequently comments on a 15-year-old's body.
Wow. You should be a model. Are you really 15? The rounded hips, perfectly sculpted, bountiful breasts. It's hard to imagine anyone not wanting to nail her. It's a compliment. Heart-shaped ass, those perfect, perky, all-natural breasts.
That is my daughter you're talking about.
Bro, House is wild. This is some edgy stuff. There's another episode where a 17-year-old flirts with and propositions House. And he spends the whole episode considering whether he should take her off her.
You dropped something. If there's anything else you can think of, please call.
Yes?
Why haven't you returned any of my calls?
I plan to. In a couple of years.
You really don't have to wait a couple years to return my calls. Just 6 months, till I turn 18.
Hell, for a more recent example, the character Annie in Community is supposed to be like 18 or 19 years old. She has a romantic thing with Jeff, who's in his 30s. And at the time this episode released, I don't think audiences were freaking out. Jerry Seinfeld dated a 17-year-old when he was 39. Like, he had to pick her up from high school and shit. Destiny, I think, was 30 when he first started dating his ex-wife, who was like 19 or 20 at the time. Okay, forget fictional stuff, famous people and actors. Maybe they're just weird. In my own family, my grandmother was 14 when she got married. And her husband, my grandfather, was like 21 or 22. Now, this was 1950s India. There were some backwards ass standards. And I'm not going to pretend this wasn't devastating for my grandma. I mean, for one, she was forced to leave school. She's a very smart woman, and to this day she regrets it because she has that feeling of like unfulfilled potential, right? But at the same time, they had a very loving family. She raised 4 great kids. My granddad was great with me until he died. So it's a bit hard for me to now be like, yeah, that guy was a creep. How could he have possibly done that? Okay, what is the point of me saying this? It's not to excuse these influencers or the inappropriate stuff they did. And in some cases, it was way beyond inappropriate. It's to point out that this is not particularly unique. And it's not only like evil, horrible people that are capable of this.
She was 17, which is the legal age of consent in New Mexico, and she wasn't drunk, so not that I wanted to. I didn't.
Like, a popular comment I see quite often is, oh, I'm 24 years old. I could never even imagine finding an 18-year-old attractive. That's a child. And it's like, bro, shut up. Okay, I understand in the sense that having a proper relationship with someone way younger can be hard to comprehend. Because you're usually in very different places in life and there will be an intellectual maturity gap. So it's like, man, there's a good chance you're taking advantage of this person. Like, what the hell does a middle-aged Jerry Seinfeld have in common with a 17-year-old? Like, what kind of conversations are you having at dinner, you know? But as a purely, like, physical attractiveness thing, like, this is not some crazy, unlikely thing that only bad, predatory people can feel.
Let me explain it to you. Men are monsters who crave young flesh. The end.
And to be clear, I don't think this is unique to men. Here's Rihanna talking about Justin Bieber's sexy six-pack in 2010. You know, do the math. Like, I remember seeing a Facebook post with pictures of David Beckham's sons, and a bunch of grown women in the comments were like fawning over them and complimenting their appearances and stuff. But maybe men are just more likely to act on it or something. I don't know. Again, this is not to excuse these people. What they did was bad. But I think there's a lack of honesty around these conversations, and we should understand which part of it is bad. And also that not all of these are the same, yet they're being treated kind of similarly. In my eyes, there are very different levels of badness here. Dr. Disrespect, I think, was the worst one. A huge 40-year-old streamer sending private, inappropriate DMs with a minor who he allegedly set up to meet at TwitchCon. That seems really bad. The age difference, the difference in experience, the difference in wealth and power and influence, the fact that it was so private, not like on a public Discord, and the fact he's unwilling to show the messages tells me he knows what he did is wrong and inappropriate. I think for any point in the last 30 years or so, this is mega creepy and not good. So I think what he did was significantly worse than something like what Ava Tyson from Mr. Beast did. I mean, firstly, most of her like bad DMs and Twitter comments were in public spaces. Now, don't get me wrong, like, this was inappropriate. It certainly raises red flags. And then you add that to the Shadman stuff, and then there's also allegations that she essayed someone. Like, there's a very good chance they are messed up. I'm just saying, before the Shadman stuff and the essay allegations, like, the big controversy was the messages with that lava person, right? And I'm just explaining why my initial reaction was that there's enough space here, enough indication that these are plausibly just jokes. That in trying to give the benefit of the doubt, there might be an element of, well, this was a different time. time. I don't know if people realize how different like gaming spaces were even just 7 or 8 years ago. I'll tell you something, if this was grooming, then I've been groomed and I may have groomed other people too. Because when I was like 13 or 14, I had Xbox Live only friends who were like adults.
I am the least racist person in the world. My best friend, when I was 6 years old, was a black man.
Sometimes when we played video games, the humor would get raunchy. We would do like joking, fake gay stuff, like calling each other daddy or mommy or teabagging each other in games or whatever. Typical edgy 2000s, 2010s gamer humor, you know? And today, it's like when I see comments like, oh, why are people with this age difference even talking to each other? Or how could you possibly think this is okay? I don't know what to tell you. It was a different time. Again, not to call out Destiny here, but when I first came across this content like in like 2016 or 2017, he had a friend called Mr. Mooten, who I think is around my age. They had been gaming together for years, meaning he was a minor while Destiny was well into his adulthood. And given who Destiny is, I'm sure there were like tons of inappropriate, edgy conversations there. That if we were to take out of context, given our current cultural norms, we could easily paint a picture that this dude is really dodgy.
Because it's not about the legality.
Diane's right. That story is super sketchy. Is Bojack super sketchy? Yes, he is.
Okay, let's talk about Cody Ko. I think this is really interesting.
Whatever. I was like, okay, I get it, right? These are like attractive teens. Can I say that? Make me seem like a pedophile, but I get it. Like these kids are like attractive, whatever, right?
I don't always like D'Angelo Wallace, but I think his video on this was overall pretty decent. But I keep seeing comments like, oh, Cody's being so cowardly. Why is he not addressing this? Why is he not confronting this? And it's pretty obvious. It's probably because he banged Tana when she was 17. I mean, how the hell do you come out and address that crime? In terms of protecting his brand, or even just his own mental health, at least in the short term, burying this stuff is probably the right move. But in terms of morality, in terms of personal growth long term, yeah, I think he should come out, admit what he did, admit what went through his head, and just have like a frank, honest conversation about it.
I think you should do the hard thing and be honest about everything. Things will get worse before they get better, but you won't have to spend the rest of your life waiting for the other shoe to drop.
In fact, I think it would be kind of cool to see someone of that size who did something that taboo talk candidly about something like that. I think that would be interesting. And if he does do that, then I think there should be a path for him for the wider public to not always just label him as that predatory guy. Because look, I'll be real, 25 and 17, yeah, it's kind of bad, but it's not irredeemable. But given the fact that when he got exposed for saying the N-word, he just posted some half-assed apology buried in his Patreon somewhere, yeah, I wouldn't expect much from him. Especially since that should be like way easier to address. I mean, who wasn't saying the N-word in 2016? I mean, damn, Tana herself was. Oh, and there is that whole issue of his friend.
You used to frequently feature and promote your college friend Colby Leachman in your videos until it came out that during your school days, Leachman's university put him on probation for, as a United States District Judge would later put it, the non-consensual videotaping of a sex act with another student, showing the video to other people, lying to the police about the video, and behaving horribly to that individual and at least one other woman. To make matters worse, the woman in the video also alleged that Leachman drugged her before the recording and that she hadn't actually consented to anything at all.
Yeah, okay, he's probably never addressing any of this. And it sucks because the cool thing about social media is that everything is more open and you can have a back and forth conversation and stuff. Yeah, it may alienate some of your audience to see like this different side of you, but that's what growth is. Like, to grow, you need to be held accountable at some stage. And I know this is like idealistic, but I think honest conversations about even something this taboo, especially coming from the person who transgressed, who did the bad thing, I think that's important. Look, basically, I think we've made a lot of progress in the last 10 years or so. Culture has improved, our standards have improved, but I do feel like people are a little too quick to ring the pedo alarm as hard as possible on every inkling of an infraction nowadays. Now, all these people we focus on may be deserving of the kind of backlash they've gotten. I'm just speaking more generally, that it's important to keep in mind that things have changed a lot in a very short amount of time. So that should mean that in less bad cases that we offer a little bit of leeway to people, that there should be a path to redemption, because in some ways these guys might be a product of that time. I realize that as I say this, it sounds like I'm trying to cover for myself, like I may have done something super messed up, but I promise I haven't. I'm just reiterating things were very different. Like r/jailbait used to be a pretty big subreddit. Now I think most normal people even back then recognized that was degenerate, but hey, like almost as messed up but more subtle things were very, very normal. Like the Young Turks had a video called Emma Watson, Too Soon? Like her turning 18 was a whole like thing. But anyway, a bit of a jumbled video. I'm just kind of clearing my head about this crazy topic. And there's so much like moral grandstanding around this topic that makes it look really hard to navigate as well. Like I'm sure right now someone is thinking that I'm running defense for pedos and groomers, but yeah.
I just keep seeing this story of you taking young women, grooming them.
I didn't groom anyone, okay? It's not like I got Sarah Lynn drunk for the purpose of taking advantage of her. She was 10. I didn't even have sex with her until she was 30.
I'm sorry, what?
I will say, BoJack Horseman is such a good TV show. God damn. All right, that's about it. See ya.